In a universe defined by chaos, imperfection, and staggering violence, astronomers found something that should not exist. In the grand cosmic theater, where no lines are perfectly straight and no circles are truly round, they detected a shape so flawless, so mathematically pure, that it defies the known rules of nature. They found a perfect sphere. To understand the magnitude of this discovery, you first have to unlearn what you think you know about space. We picture planets as perfect marbles, stars as pristine balls of light. But the reality is that the universe is a messy place. A sprawling, cosmic construction site where perfection is the one thing that never gets built. Take our own star, the Sun. It seems like a perfect circle in our sky, but it's not. Its own rotation, a colossal spin that takes nearly a month to complete, causes it to flatten. The Sun is wider at its equator than it is at its poles. The same is true for every planet. Jupiter, spinning at a dizzying speed, has a prominent equatorial bulge that makes it look slightly squashed. Our own Earth is an oblate spheroid, thicker around its middle by about 43 kilometers. It's a subtle imperfection, but a fundamental one. This cosmic rule of imperfection is forged in the very creation of celestial bodies. Everything in the universe forms from chaos. In the swirling dust and gas of a protoplanetary disk, tiny particles clump together through static electricity and then gravity. These clumps grow into planetesimals, which smash into each other in a violent, haphazard ballet that lasts for millions of years. The end result is a lumpy, asymmetrical ball of rock and metal, pockmarked with craters, scarred by titanic collisions, and shaped not just by its own gravity, but by the gravitational pull of its neighbors. Tidal forces from a nearby moon or star stretch and warp a planet's shape. Nothing is left untouched. Nothing is pristine. Every object in the sky, from the smallest asteroid to the largest galaxy, bears the scars of its chaotic formation and existence. It is a fundamental truth of astrophysics, or it was. The story begins in the driest place on Earth, the Atacama Desert in Chile. Here, perched over 5,000 meters above sea level, sits the Atacama Large Millimeter Array, or ALMA. It is not one telescope. It's 66 high-precision antennas working in unison, acting as a single gigantic eye on the universe. ALMA doesn't see the visible light we do. It sees the cold, faint, long-wavelength radiation that comes from the universe's most frigid and distant corners, the birthing grounds of stars and the faint, lingering echo of the Big Bang itself. A team was using ALMA for a deep sky survey, charting a sector of the sky thought to be relatively empty. For months, the data was predictable. It was background noise, the quiet hum of cold dust and distant gas. Then, an anomaly appeared. It was an object so faint it was barely detectable. It was absorbing radiation with near-total efficiency, rendering it almost invisible against the black backdrop of space. But the tiny amount of energy it did interact with told a story that, at first, seemed like a simple mistake. The task of processing that night's data fell to a brilliant postdoctoral researcher. She ran the numbers through the analysis software, her brow furrowed. The program was designed to model the shape of detected objects based on their energy signature. For this object, the software kept returning an error. Or rather, what she assumed was an error. It resolved the object's geometry to a sphericity of 0.99999. In astrophysical terms, a perfect one is a theoretical impossibility, a geometric concept that can't exist in the real, messy universe. This number was so close as to be statistically identical. It was a mathematical object hiding in a patch of sky. Her first thought, the only logical one, was that the machine was wrong. She spent the next day running diagnostics, convinced the single antenna was miscalibrated, or that the correlator, the supercomputer that stitches the data together, had a software bug. She found nothing. The numbers were clean. Growing uneasy, she brought her findings to the project lead. The entire team spent the next 72 hours in a state of controlled panic, trying to find the flaw in their own system. They recalibrated the entire array. They had engineers check the physical hardware. They cross-referenced their data with archives from other radio telescopes, looking for any sign of interference. They accounted for atmospheric distortion, for signals bouncing off Earth-orbiting satellites, for anything that could be spoofing their readings. Each test came back negative. Every painstaking check only served to confirm the initial data. The anomaly wasn't a glitch, it was real. Out there, in the silent darkness, was an object 3 times the size of Jupiter. It was perfectly spherical, and it was absorbing nearly 100% of all electromagnetic radiation that struck it. For all intents and purposes, it was the blackest, most perfect object ever observed by humanity. The professional excitement in the room began to curdle into a profound sense of awe, mingled with a creeping intellectual dread. If it wasn't a mistake, what was it? The search for a natural explanation began. The first and most obvious suspect was a strange type of star, perhaps a quark star, a hypothetical remnant of a massive supernova. These objects are so mind-bogglingly dense that gravity crushes protons and neutrons into a soup of their fundamental components. Quarks. The immense uniform gravity could theoretically pull the star into a near-perfect sphere. But the theory also predicted that quark stars should emit specific kinds of high-energy radiation. This object was emitting nothing. It was cold and utterly silent. The next candidate was a black hole. Black holes are the champions of gravity, the ultimate expression of mass-curving spacetime. Surely its event horizon, the point of no return, must be perfectly spherical? This is a common misconception. Most black holes are born from the collapse of massive spinning stars, and they inherit that spin. A spinning black hole, known as a Kerr black hole, has an event horizon that bulges at its equator, just like a star or planet. A theoretically perfect, non-spinning black hole, a Schwarzschild black hole, would have a spherical event horizon. But in our dynamic, rotating universe, finding an object with absolutely zero angular momentum is considered a practical impossibility. And even if it were such a black hole, this object wasn't behaving like one. It wasn't pulling in gas to form a glowing accretion disk. It wasn't bending the light of the stars behind it in the way a black hole should. It was just floating. One by one, the natural explanations were failing. The data refused to fit any known model of stellar or planetary evolution. Could it be something entirely new? A phenomenon predicted by speculative physics? Some suggested a Bose-Einstein condensate of cosmic proportions, a strange state of matter where particles act as one giant wave, perhaps forced into a perfect shape. But these are theoretical constructs, and the object's sheer scale and stability defied even those exotic explanations. The team had followed the scientific method to its limits. It had observed, hypothesized, and tested. And now, they found themselves standing at the edge of a cliff. Every natural path had led to a dead end. Every logical explanation had been exhausted. The silence from the object was as profound as its impossible shape. And as the team sat with this data, the weight of it began to change them. The lead astrophysicist, a man who had dedicated his life to the predictable, knowable laws of the cosmos, found himself staring at the data on his screen no longer as a scientist, but as a man looking at something truly alien. He gathered his team. The excitement was gone, replaced by a somber gravity. He laid out the facts one last time. The object was real. Its shape was, by all available data, perfect. Its temperature was near absolute zero. Its rotation was non-existent. It did not conform to any known or even hypothetical natural phenomena. They were left with only one conclusion so staggering it felt insane to even consider, yet so logical it was impossible to ignore. What if the reason this object doesn't obey the rules of nature is because it isn't natural at all? The implication hung in the air, heavy and terrifying. An artifact. An artificial structure, built on a planetary scale with a level of engineering that was indistinguishable from magic. It wasn't a star or a planet born from cosmic chaos. It was a statement, crafted with intention and precision in the black void. A Dyson sphere, perhaps, designed to harness a star's energy. No, it was cold, with no star inside. A vessel, a monument, a tomb, or maybe a warning? Humanity has always looked to the stars and wondered if we are alone. That question may have just been answered. A perfect sphere, floating in the dark, had become a message in a bottle. Only, the bottle was the size of a world. Its surface was the blackest thing in existence, and we had no idea how to open it. The search for what it was had ended. The search for who built it and why had just begun.